Sometimes strength stays silent. It doesn't speak in numbers, or milestones, or applause. It lives in quiet abilities, the ones we forget to name, because they've been with us so long, we don't notice them anymore. Like standing without thinking, like remembering without effort, like waking up and moving without doubt. These aren't achievements, they're remnants of something deeper, something that has outlived time, injury, even fear. We've been told aging is decline, but maybe it's just rearrangement of what still matters, of what still responds when called upon. And if you've noticed even one of these silent strengths, you may not be aging at all. You may be arriving to the most grounded version of yourself. There's a particular grace in standing without using your hands. Harold once did it without thought. He'd pop up from his chair during commercials, walk to the kitchen, refill his tea, return. It was a reflex, not a feat, until it wasn't. One day he noticed his hands pressing into the armrest, not because he was tired, but because some part of him no longer believed his legs could handle the ask alone. It shook him, not violently, but quietly, a whisper of doubt. That night, he stood in front of the mirror and tried again. Hands on his thighs, then hovering, then gone. He failed, twice, then stopped. The next day he tried again. 1 week, 2. Then one evening, while picking up a piece of paper he dropped, he stood up without thinking. No hands, no push. Just strength, remembered. That single motion restored something older than muscle, a sense of self-sufficiency. Because standing without support isn't about strength, it's about sovereignty, about telling your body, I still trust you to carry me. Walking fast doesn't mean rushing, it means flowing. William had always been a brisk walker. Even in his 70s, his neighbors said they could hear the rhythm of his feet before they saw him. A steady rolling cadence, like jazz. But at some point, he noticed the music slowed. It wasn't dramatic, just a slight sag in the step. A pause between crosswalks, a feeling of checking before committing. He didn't tell anyone, but he timed himself. 1 block, then 2. He noticed something else. It wasn't his body that forgot the rhythm. It was his trust in movement. So he played music again. Real music, earphones in, old Coltrane, and he walked, not faster, but with tempo. Within weeks, the bounce came back. He even caught himself humming while stepping off curbs. Because sometimes walking is less about legs and more about remembering the beat of your life. Brisk walking isn't a fitness goal. It's a signal that your heart, your lungs, your rhythm are still speaking to each other. Balance doesn't announce itself. It disappears, quietly. Until one day, putting on your socks feels like standing on a boat. Frank, 76, never thought of balance. He danced at weddings, played horseshoes, even walked backwards for fun when his grandkids dared him. Then one morning, he lifted one foot to slide into his pant leg and nearly toppled. It startled him. Not because he fell, he didn't, but because he almost did, and didn't expect it. That week, he tested himself. 10 seconds on one foot, eyes open, near the counter, 4 seconds, then stumble, so he practiced. Side leg lifts, heel raises, weight shifts while brushing his teeth. Weeks passed. One night, he leaned to scratch his ankle mid-conversation, and stayed upright. That's when he smiled, not from pride, but from reunion, with a part of him he thought was fading. Because balance isn't just a physical capacity. It's your body saying, I still know where I am. When you have it, you don't think about it. When you lose it, you feel the world tilt. And when it returns, so does your confidence in gravity itself. Getting down to the floor and back up again is a kind of quiet ceremony. It doesn't look impressive. It's not something we post online or brag about. But inside that motion is a story of trust between your joints, your breath, and your will. Joseph didn't think he had lost the floor, until one day his grandson said, "Let's play down here," and he hesitated. Not because he didn't want to, but because he wasn't sure how he'd get back up, with dignity. So, he practiced, softly, without announcing it, first by kneeling on a towel, then by rising with one knee. He learned to shift weight like a dancer, not a bodybuilder. He never told his family, But weeks later, when his grandson pulled out a puzzle on the carpet, Joseph eased himself down without fear and rose again without furniture. That moment wasn't physical, it was spiritual, because the floor isn't just a surface. It's a place where we return to play, to rest, to pray. And being able to reach it without worry means your body still believes in its own range. The ground is not low, it's honest. And getting up from it, on your own, means you still carry your story, all the way to your feet. There's something noble in carrying your own groceries, not because it's difficult, but because it's yours. Richard once carried 5 bags at once, just to prove he could. Now, one trip from the car made him pause. It wasn't pain, it was a shift. In his fingers, in his forearms, in his memory of strength. He didn't panic, he adjusted. He found an old rubber ball and began squeezing it during morning TV. He started pouring water from jug to cup, left hand, then right. Tiny rituals of resistance and rebuild. 1 month later, he lifted 2 bags again, not heavy ones, just enough. And this time, he didn't rush to the counter. He walked slower, feeling every fiber of grip and motion as presence, not performance. To carry is not about weight, it's about ownership. And when your hands still close around something and lift it, even lightly, you are still a builder, still the person who makes things happen. It's not about groceries, it's about grasping life, and knowing your strength is not in what you lift, but in the fact that you can still hold on. Stairs don't lie, they don't flatter, they don't delay. They ask a single question: can you still rise? George used to skip stairs 2 at a time. Now he avoided them. Elevators, escalators. Maybe tomorrow. Until one afternoon at his friend's apartment, the elevator broke. 5 floors. He looked at the steps like a mountain, then stepped up. 1, 2, pause. Halfway, his thighs burned, his lungs ticked. But he smiled, because every muscle was talking again. The next day, he walked 1 flight, then 2. He made stairs his ritual, not punishment. And one Sunday, on the 3rd floor landing, he stopped, not from exhaustion, but from wonder. I'm not tired. That moment said more than any blood test ever could. Because climbing stairs is not just exertion, it's elevation, of breath, of faith, of identity. You don't need to run them, you only need to face them, and feel yourself move upward without asking if you can. And if your legs still say yes, then the answer has been with you all along. Maybe the greatest sign of aging well is not what you can do, but what you still notice. The fact that you read a moment like this and think of your own breath, your own chair, your own way of getting out of bed, that is the reflection. These small abilities aren't tests, they're reminders. That strength lives in what you haven't lost. And if you have lost something, that the road back is paved with noticing, not rushing, not resisting, just attention to the cues you still carry, the quiet ones. There's something sacred about remembering, not just facts, but presence. Paul, 79, didn't consider himself brilliant, but he remembered details others forgot. What his neighbor wore last week, the taste of a cookie from a story told a month ago, a joke retold with the right timing. He still read, still played word games, still asked questions that went deeper than, "How are you?" For him, memory wasn't a skill, it was connection, to others, to stories, to the version of himself that remained unchanged, even as his body changed around it. Because memory doesn't just say, "I remember," it says, "I'm still here." And when your thoughts are still sharp, when names return without effort, when your mind walks beside your body instead of behind it, that is clarity. A clear mind is not about never forgetting. It's about staying open to new things, to stories, to people. And Paul, without realizing it, was still writing new chapters every day. Waking up rested is a victory no one sees, but your body feels it. Roger used to wake up more tired than when he slept, groggy, uncertain, like the night didn't count. He stopped chasing deep sleep. Instead, he created space for it. No more screens before bed. He dimmed the lights, made tea, spoke softer. Listened to music he remembered from his childhood. Sleep came slowly at first, like someone returning after a long trip. But eventually it settled, and one morning he opened his eyes before the alarm. Anne didn't feel dread. He felt arrival, The kind of rest that builds something invisible: immune strength, clarity, mood, resilience. To wake up ready is not luck, it's repair. And if you have mornings like that, even once a week, it means your body is still rebuilding, still working with you, still whispering, "We're not done." We mourn what fades, but we rarely celebrate what stays. We notice the stumbles, but not the steady stance. We lament the name we forgot, but not the dozens we remembered. We fear the lost rhythm, but not the beat still pulsing in our walk. Aging doesn't take everything, but it teaches you to notice everything that remains, like the quiet joy of brushing your hair without stiffness, or walking up a short hill without calculating how far, or laughing at a joke and remembering why it's funny. These aren't just signs, they are ceremonies. And each time they happen, your body, your story, your dignity says, "I'm still here." The real AHA is this: you were never behind. You were always returning. To the body that still wanted you to notice it. To the rituals that never stopped waiting. Maybe it's not about doing everything. Maybe it's about knowing what still works and treating it like a miracle. You don't have to earn your place here, you just have to show up. Even with slower feet, even with more pauses, even with shorter sentences. You're not late, you're not declining, you're just unfolding into a self that doesn't measure by speed, but by awareness. If one of these quiet signs lives in you, hold it, not tightly, just with reverence. And if one has slipped away, don't mourn it too loudly. Just ask it to return through breath, through practice, through softness. You're not aging, you're arriving, still. And if you'd like to walk a little further, not faster, with us, you're always welcome. We read every word, even the silent ones. Until next time, take a slower breath and take care of your story.